have no idea what this hair is, but we're just gonna go with it. Hi, and welcome back to my writing channel. Today I'm bringing you another writing vlog, and it's actually going to be a little bit different from my typical writing vlog style. Normally I like to record a few clips from 2 to 3 to 4 different sessions. So usually they're on different days, they're from different kind of moods, and I'm usually working on something a little bit different in each one. And I planned on doing that for this one as well. I actually recorded a clip that I meant to use in this writing vlog to actually start off this writing vlog, but my neighbors decided to guest star in that one, and they were being really horrible in the background. So I decided not to torture your ears with horrible neighbors, and I'm not gonna post that clip here. Recently, I hit a breakthrough with my revisions, one that I absolutely did not see coming. If you have watched my last writing vlog, you will know that I did not have a lot of hope for my original deadline for my revisions. I'm not gonna make it still. Spoiler, but I'm a lot closer than I thought I was going to be. My original kind of soft deadline was for the end of August. I planned on having all of my revisions done for this first round of sorts. I don't actually know if there's a better term for it. Let me know if you know in the comments below, but I just kind of call it first draft, revisions round 1, revisions round 100. I'm still in round 1, but my round 1 has been kind of separated into 2 parts inadvertently. What I've done for the past couple of months has been world building, character building, development, some more brainstorming, making notes throughout the draft and all of that. And the second part that I want to do is the reread. The progress that I made in July was very disappointing for a lot of reasons. A lot of it was personal reasons and stuff that was going on in my life, and reasons that I just could not motivate myself no matter how much I tried. I still did revise, I still did work on it. It's not like I took a complete break, and I did get a lot of really good progress done in July, but it was not what I was hoping it would be. Recently, I have managed to kind of get through some of those things, and I refound some of that energy and that motivation and that optimism about my draft, about writing in general. And also, a huge part of this breakthrough, I think, has to do with last week. I decided this year, because I'm not going on a vacation anywhere, I guess it's technically possible within certain boundaries, but I decided that it was just safer and better for me not to do that this year. So no vacations, but what my husband and I did was have a staycation. So we spent a couple of days just outside the city in an Airbnb to kind of get away. And originally we wanted to go hiking and everything and, you know, kind of spend some time outdoors, but we ended up getting a really bad heat wave. So I decided to make that a creative getaway of sorts. And I took my novel, I took the book that I'm reading, or I was reading, I finished it when I was there, and I worked really hard. So I have officially made it past the first part of these revisions. So I've made it past all of the non-chronological revisions that I had to do. Technically, there are still a couple that I was thinking would be non-chronological, but I've decided to do those during my reread, which I'm just about to start. Basically, the reason that I did it this way was because there were some developmental things, there were some issues, I guess I'll call them issues. I had noticed some problems and some things that needed to be fixed and some things that just needed to be improved and developed upon. And I decided to start with that because the story was still really fresh in my mind. I wrote the first draft within a year, so everything felt pretty fresh. So I jumped right into developmental stuff. Like I said, there were a couple of things that I planned to do non-chronologically that I've now decided need to belong in my reread. And that's because now it has been a little bit longer since I've been in touch with my book as a whole. I've really been focusing obviously on, you know, the key points, the turning points, the really important scenes, but there are a lot of connecting things that I haven't really addressed that much. And I think I would just really benefit now from going back to page 1, back to chapter 1, the opening of the story, and just reading it all the way through. And then I can really see with some of these things what might need to be changed and what might need to be improved. I've added about 10,000 words to my book, which is not a big deal. Don't worry, I'm not going into my problems of overwriting that I had with Legend Says, which was massive, and I spent almost all my revisions just trying to cut the thing down. That is not a problem here. I am very much within the limits of what I wanted to be within and what is acceptable for my genre, which is young adult fantasy. My original first draft, I can tell you actually exactly what the word count was. Draft 1, 80,184 words. And then I started working on revisions and I started adding some things. I added a couple of scenes, I added a lot of detail. So now my draft is 90,009 precisely words. This is bound to change because during the reread, I have a lot of things that I need to work on, and I'm gonna tell you in just a second. I've written everything down in my notebook, everything that I plan to accomplish during the reread, and there is quite a bit. So it is gonna take a little bit. This is the same notebook that I used for Legend Says. You might remember it because I only used a few pages. What I did with Legend Says and with the first draft of this book was I took basically a log of all of my writing sessions. So I wrote down the date and the word count, and that helped, I think, tremendously. This is actually something that I think I did wrong with the first part of these revisions. Because I wasn't doing a chronological revision, because I wasn't doing it kind of by word or by chapter or anything like that. I was kind of hopping around and adding notes here and adding details here and brainstorming and developing behind the scenes, not even in the draft half the time. I decided I wasn't going to keep a log, but I think I probably would have benefited from at least writing down the days that I did sessions. This may not work for everyone, but for me, I have found with these past 2 novels, if I keep a log of every single time that I sit down with the draft, and if I keep a word count as well, if I'm writing a new draft or if I'm revising, like doing a reread of a draft where I can't actually keep the words, the number of words that I accomplished that day, it helps me so much with accountability, with motivation, with feeling optimistic about what I've done and what I've accomplished. For example, when I have a consistent, 5, 6, 7 days of writing and I don't take a single day off, that feels amazing, and I can look at it and see it and be like, oh my God, look at all the consecutive days. It's so beautiful on the page. If I have really good writing sessions, if I write a massive amount of words on a day or a couple of days where I get really solid writing sessions, I can see that and I can feel really good about it. At the same time, if I have a really bad few days of writing, or if I take a few days off accidentally, not planned, I just, get too busy or am not motivated or don't feel good or whatever, I can see that on the page. And maybe for some people that's an unhealthy pressure, but for me, actually, it's a very healthy pressure, because as soon as I start noticing those gaps, I start feeling more motivated. I start feeling like I need to write. I haven't written in 3, 4, 5 days. And it really kind of just gets a fire under my butt, and it's very effective for me. So not doing that for the first part of these revisions possibly contributed just at least a little bit to the lack of motivation that I had. So for part 2, I am definitely going to be doing that. It will be easier because with the reread, I can actually keep a log of the day and the number of words that I revise or read through. And that's also what I did for my revisions of Legend Says, and it worked splendidly. So I'm gonna try it again. Because I didn't have a log, I decided to just put kind of half a page in here about some highlights of the first part of my revisions. So I have the date that I started and a couple of the dates of important moments in my revisions, when I wrote certain scenes that were new and when I finished round 1. The second half of the page, I have written down my main revisions reread goals. Not comprehensive, this could always change, this could always be added to, it probably will be added to or tweaked here and there as I go, but kind of what I'm thinking right now are my main goals are these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The first one is to study and refine the character arc and just the character in general of my MC, my main character. I've talked in some of my videos about how she is very different from a lot of my protagonists in the past. Basically all of my novels' protagonists, at least, have had kind of fiery outward personalities. They've been very outspoken. I kind of fell into the trap of using dialogue to express what my character was feeling and thinking, which is great. I mean, dialogue is very useful for that, but I relied on it really heavily. So there wasn't a lot of internal monologue or anything going on that the characters wouldn't just blurt out. This main character, Eliana, is not like that. She's much more internal. I wanted to create a character who was quiet. Not that she is a pushover or doesn't have a strong personality, because I personally just really love writing characters with strong personalities. But what I wanted to do with her is that it's very much an internal strength and fire, but she is much more careful about speaking. It's almost like I crafted her to challenge myself and to drive myself crazy as I was trying to figure out how to convey her character. She's a challenge because I really have to work with conveying what she's thinking and feeling through her dialogue, which doesn't always say even the same thing that she's thinking, or when it does, it could just be a very like watered down version of what she's actually thinking. Then I have to try and convey her thoughts. There's a little bit of her attitude in the prose because it is third person limited. It's not first person. I thought about first person, that's a different topic, but it is limited to her point of view. So there is a little bit of her in the narrative, even though it's not first person. So I have all these different kind of layers that I'm trying to convey her personality through, and it's very challenging. So that is one of the big things I'm gonna be working on in revisions. The next two things on the list are to study and potentially refine as well the arcs of my two secondary characters. These characters are very, very important as well, nearly as important as the MC, in some ways equally as important as the MC. I did work on their arcs a little bit already in my non-chronological revisions, but I'd really just like to make sure and kind of keep an eye really more so on their arcs. Then I have add descriptive and sensory details, make the world and settings come to life. This is something that has been a huge object of my revision so far, so this is just kind of further adding to what I've already been doing. And it is something that I think I need to do as I reread, because there's going to be places when I won't necessarily have remembered to come back to it in my non-chronological edit, but that will just be missing some sensory details or some descriptive details. The next goal is to add final touches of world building. Another thing that I spent a lot of time working on already, so I really, really hope that this is going to be a very minimal thing. That's why I put final touches. I still have a few Microsoft Word comments throughout the draft, little notes for things that I still do need to add in related to world building, but I really hope that it's just going to be a matter of that, and then probably a few other little places that I'll see opportunities to add a little detail or something that will help further convey this world. This is a really key part of fantasy novels in general, so that's why I spent so long on it with revisions. That's why it's still on my revisions reread list, because it's extremely important. A lot of what makes a book enjoyable and a world enjoyable are these little details and the way authors can portray their world subtly throughout the different scenes. And lastly, we have line editing. I need to rewrite anything that is clunky or unclear. Something that can be so fun or so horrifically miserable depending on what mood you're in or what part of the draft you're in. I've done a little bit of this as I've been doing the first part of revisions, but it's really not at all been a focus because I'm saving this. This is what I was planning on being the main focus of my reread, and it's probably what I'm going to be doing in another reread in the future, because it's always something that can be a little bit just, you know, refined here and there as you go. I really need to look for any sentences, any phrases, any descriptions that just don't work, and that's something I really think you can't get until you start from the very beginning of your book and you read all the way to the end, and you really just weed out anything that was kind of a weird spur of the moment on that day when you wrote that chapter in the draft. Maybe you weren't in a great headspace, or you just didn't really make sense, or you were overly tired or something, and you might have written something completely nonsensical. My most recent video, actually, I had a lot of fun because I specifically pinpointed little like annoying pet peeves that I have in my writing that I've been noticing in my revisions that I kept doing, like little mistakes I kept making throughout my draft that really start to get on my nerves after a while. So that video was entirely dedicated to those annoying little things that I was finding in my writing. Now I have to do the hard part, which is, now knowing all those issues that exist, I have to now fix them. That's basically everything I wanted to update you with. Very positive, a lot more positive than I probably left you thinking in my last writing vlog. Definitely more positive than I was thinking in my last writing vlog. I'm really, really happy about the progress I'm making. I'm really happy with the state of the draft as well. There's still a lot to work on, there's still a lot to fix and to improve, and I'll probably find even more things as I go through this revision, as I always say. But I'm feeling very, very optimistic about it, and I'm going to celebrate the highs, and for the lows, I'm going to find ways of working through them. Please do let me know in the comments what you're working on right now, how it's going, kind of what stage you're in, if you're in first draft, first revisions, multiple revisions, maybe you're taking a break as well. It's summer, so let me know if you wanted a productive summer and you're getting it, or if you wanted kind of a break this summer. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon in another writing video.